Hello and welcome to Level Up and Friends, the weekly podcast where those of us from the video game and comic book store Level Up Entertainment get together with some friends and have a discussion about things we're passionate about every week. Happy New Year, everyone. This is going to be the first podcast of 2021. And as such,
Happy New Year.
Yeah,
it's the future.
I know, finally 2020's in the past. Life will never be bad again.
Only go up.
But at the end of each year, we like to say at the end of each year, we like to look back. It's been a tradition for the past 5 or so years. We do our whatever the current year is didn't completely suck awards, where we kind of pick our favorite games and comics and such throughout the year. This is the first year we've had a podcast where we feel like we could discuss this stuff. So if you want, not everyone who participated at the store is in this podcast. So if you want to see the full list, go to levelupentertainment.com and see them. But yeah, so with that, I'm going to introduce everybody. I'm your host, as usual, Scott, and with me I've got Greg.
Hey, what's going on?
We've got Joe.
Hello.
I got John.
Hey, how's it going?
We've also got Wes.
Hey.
How's it going, everyone?
Pretty good. Can't complain. Well, I guess I could complain because this year's been a clustered beep.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I don't know. I think the store did surprisingly well, all things considered. So years ago, we named these awards. This year didn't completely suck awards, I think, just as a joke. But man, did we ever need to remind ourselves of some sort of positivity than this year. I've mentioned on the podcast, I try to keep things, focused on like things we like rather than things we don't. But there's been some good stuff this year, just had to look for it a little bit. But let me introduce our categories a little bit. We're going to do best video games, best comic books, best collectibles, and then we're going to do our best TV shows / movies, which is going to be mostly TV shows this year because the world shut down. And then what a new one we haven't done before is like kind of because I want to do another positive thing and kind of like the best surprise we had of the year. This could be from basically anything that we thought was interesting that we didn't expect to be as good as it was. But let's start us off. We're going to do video game category first. So Greg, why don't you introduce us your pick for best game of the year?
Well, my game of the year was not technically, it was released last year, but I finally had to play it this year. I finally had some time. It was the remake of Link's Awakening for Switch. Never played it before. I played it that's not exactly true. I played it sparingly on the Game Boy years and years ago. I got to like the beginning, never played much after that. But with the new updated graphics and the such, kind of drew me in, even though the game was a tad expensive for a remake. And a fairly short remake at that, but I had a blast. It like just felt like the day I played Link to the Past. It was just like such a great game, such a fun game, and it wasn't overly hard. There was just the right amount of like difficulty. There's lots of hidden things, just like any other Zelda, the hearts and all the weapons you get, and all the the little secrets you find. But I really enjoyed the graphical update. That was really what drew me to it. It just looks like a really beautiful. It looks like a really beautiful game. Like it's just almost like animated style.
Yeah, I know in some earlier episodes of the podcast, I discussed that Link's Awakening is my favorite Zelda game. And it's really a 1-to-1 remake. Like everything, like every square is the same for the most part. Yeah. I know they changed the camera shops. Now it's like a dungeon maker kind of thing with Dompe. But for the most part, it is Link's Awakening. It's obviously based on the Game Boy Color version because I think it has the color dungeon, right?
Yeah.
I
think that might be a bonus dungeon.
Yeah, it was a bonus dungeon they added for the Game Boy Color remakes, because this is the second time they've remade it. Did you find all the secret seashells?
Most of them. There was a couple I'm gonna go back and look at the guide and figure it out because I just couldn't figure out what they wanted me to do to get it. But I'm gonna go back and get all this. I'm only missing about, I think, less than 10. So yeah. I did a pretty decent job of it.
I was about to say, when I was a kid on the Game Boy, I literally dug every spot on the island trying to find them. But it was a lot of fun looking for them. Yeah.
In the original one, do you get the little thing that tells you if you're close to a seashell, or is that something new for the remake?
I think it's something they added in the Game Boy Color version. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly. It's been
Yeah, because that made it much easier.
I haven't picked up the Switch version
Gotcha.
yet. $60 is a little cost prohibitive for a Game Boy game.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, so I'm kind of waiting to find it on sale. But I do collect the Zelda games, so I will get it eventually. Like I just got Breath of the Wild for Switch this year. I originally had it for Wii U.
Nice.
But yeah, so I've been playing that right now. But yeah, Link's Awakening is a good one. Let's move on to the next one. Joey, tell us a little bit about your game of the year.
Well, for me, it's tough because I guess I'm known to only play like a handful of games, and that's it. Like I don't play a ton of new games. But in the beginning of the year, there was a game Risk of Rain 2 that came out that I was sort of hooked. But ever since like I got Hades, which I'm sure it's popular everywhere online as one of the top games of the year. As soon as I started playing Hades, I was hooked. The story's great, the visuals are great. It's like it's tough, but it's also rewarding. But it's like the forgiving rewarding, where like a Souls game is tough, and you die and you die and you die, and it becomes rewarding. I feel like this has a little lenient, a little like easier with the story. It makes it more enjoyable to play, and I really like rogue type games where they're every run's different. You're not gonna have the same thing every time. It's a lot of replay value, and I basically play it every day, play a run or two every day since I got it, and I'm just hooked on it. It's made from the same people that made like Bastion and Transistor, so the art style's great, the soundtrack's great. It's a game worth looking on. It's on the Switch, it's on the PC. I know Katie got it.
Bastion was a great game. I love that game.
Yeah, it's the same kind of like the voice acting is great, and everything just works. But Katie started playing it on the PC because that's where I have it right now, and she got so hooked. She's like, I have to have it on the Switch. She wants that the portability factor to play it. Currently, that's what she's been doing and probably doing right now as we're recording this podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a roguelike. Now I'm known for not really liking those kinds of games. Do you think? Now you know me a little bit, Joey. Do you think it's something I would get into because I really like the style of it?
I think so. It's a little more forgiving than other roguelike. It's not like Isaac where it's a little more, that can tend to get you swamped. But it's tough. But the story grabs you. It's a story-based game. Like everybody you meet, you end up talking and you end up learning, and it's with like the Greek gods and everything. You're trying to escape from Hades, from the underworld. You're facing off against the undead, and you're getting help from like Zeus and Poseidon and things like that. So it's like as you get things, you have to watch and see what you're building, and it's just the story grabs you and you get sucked in, and then the gameplay grabs you and sucked in. It's worth a look. It's worth a watch to see if it's something that you're into, but it's really, really good.
Have you guys been streaming it at all?
I have not gotten into that yet. The last couple of weeks here at the end of the year, I've been thinking about getting back into streaming, but the last couple of weeks here at the end of the year have been utterly insane. So I haven't gotten into, but starting the new year after this, it's one of those games I'm going to play for sure.
Because I would definitely check out a stream of it just to see, if it's
absolutely. It's a great game. I've technically finished it. I've gotten credits, but there's so much like post-game stuff to unlock and do. There's collectible. It's a really just in-depth game. It's really great and worth. Right now, it's I think on sale pretty much everywhere because of the holiday season.
Yeah, I saw it on sale and I was like half tempted, but it's like $20, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy it. So I mean, everyone I know is online is just going crazy for it. John, you kind of had a pick that I thought was a little interesting that I didn't expect. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you picked?
Yeah, so my game of the year was Mafia Definitive Edition. It's a game that originally came out on PS2, and they built it from the ground up this time for PS4 and Xbox One. It's really, really good. As far as a game that's like, minimal price range, it's like $40 now. But graphic wise, it is beautiful. Um, as soon as you load in the game, they take you around the city visually, and they show you a little bit of kind of like the map that you're going to be playing in, and it is beautiful. The game is, as far as like an open world game, it doesn't have too much to offer, but it's mainly just a story driven game. But the story is really good, and it goes in depth a little bit more than the other Mafia games if you played two or three. But it's definitely the best one that I've played.
So I haven't played any of the Mafia games. It's a little like GTA-ish,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, it's honestly I haven't played all of GTA 5's campaign. That's the only GTA game I've played. But like as far as like an open world game, it is open world, but there isn't really much to do. Like you can't just walk into a store or anything like that. Like you have to play the through the campaign to really do stuff. But they
Okay.
do have like side missions that you can do and things like that. But it's more of a story driven game. But the story is really good in it.
Okay. So
It's definitely worth the price. It's worth the price. I wouldn't pay 60 for it, but 40 was definitely worth it.
okay. You said it was a PS2 game, so yeah, and it kind of makes sense some of the
Yeah,
limitations
originally.
then.
Yeah, yeah. But it's a great remake though. It's a great remake.
Yeah, it's a cool game that they remade because it's been a weird year or so for random remakes. Like Battle for Bikini Bottom was
Yeah.
remade for whatever reason.
Oh.
Um, but no, that's cool. Hey Wes, we're gonna jump over to you now. Tell us a little bit about your game of the year.
That was a tough one because initially I was going to pick Resident Evil 3 remake, which I thought was fantastic. But then I wound up thinking, like, which game did I spend the most time on? And it was Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
Okay.
I loved it, loved it. Being a Dragon Ball fan, it gave you an opportunity. It was a Dragon Ball RPG, and it gave you the opportunity to play through each of the Dragon Ball Z storylines. Um, with a lot of character building and side quests and side missions. Uh, the graphics were great. You could put it in Japanese, which that was my first exposure to Dragon Ball. So that was my language of preference. And when you do that, it has a scene for scene shot in-game engine of the Japanese intro.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was really good. The downloadable content, it takes you from when Raditz first shows up all the way to the Majin Buu, and then the downloadable content picks up with the Battle of the Gods. So yeah, and you get everybody's transformation as per the storyline. That was definitely one of the best Dragon Ball games I have played, and I played them all.
I would say I know you played them all. I actually just assumed it was a fighting game because that's what they all are now.
Yeah, no, it's an RPG. It's a lot of fighting in it.
Was it? Is it like an action RPG in the way that like Kingdom Hearts is an RPG?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not like turn-based like Final Fantasy.
No,
VI.
it's all real time, like action based RPG. But the fighting, it's very fast fighting. It's Dragon Ball style fighting. Big fireballs and teleportation, and but you level up your character. By doing little side quests and making friends, and it's without a doubt, it was so good.
That's cool. I'll check it out then. Now that I have a PlayStation 4, I'll give it a shot. I just got one recently. So with that, I'm going to go to my pick. And it's funny, you said you picked it because it's the game you put the most hours in. This is not that. If I did, it would have been Animal Crossing. But, it's just like Animal Crossing. I picked Doom Eternal.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's basically the same game. But I loved Doom 2016, but it had some shortcomings. It was kind of repetitive, a lot of the same kind of environments, a lot of the same demons. This one took everything that game did and fixed every problem I think I could have with it. There's way more enemy types, and they all play way more differently than each other. Before they were just kind of like sponges and coming at you. But like each demon kind of requires different strategies, and they come at you in really crazy unexpected combinations. Your character is way more mobile, so it's a very, very, very fast-paced, very energetic, very chaotic game. But it's very visceral, and like I don't normally like first-person shooters, but something about Doom just works for me. It's also a lot of fun because there's tons of hidden collectibles and things to find, and like you have like your own hub like station now. So as you find things, like you find like the toys of like demons and stuff in the game, you can find your like you have like an office in it which has an old PC which you can unlock Doom 1 and 2 like in their entirety on, and play there. But like you have all like you'll find like records, like so it'll be like music for Commander Keen you can put into the game, stuff like that. It's, I don't know, something about it. It's just a lot of fun. Um, there's so much cool platforming. The game's very vertical, which is neat. Um, yeah, it's Doom just cranked up to the 11th. Cranked up to 11. I haven't done the DLC yet, so I can't comment on that. But the main game is really good.
Well, question, Scott.
Yeah.
Because I know like Doom BFG was like a survival horror. Is it like that, or did it go
No,
back
it's
to the
it's
Doom
it's back it's back to Doom roots since the reboot in
Doom roots?
2016. Yeah, where it's just first person shooter, but like no cover. So you have to constantly be on the move. If you stay in one place, you're gonna just die because demons will just get you.
Cool.
But
Did you play it on Switch?
I played it on PC. Because I got it back when we were on lockdown.
I was gonna say, I think did it come out on
It
Switch?
just came out on Switch.
Okay.
It was delayed for whatever reason for Switch.
Okay.
But now that it's on Switch, it's on everything. I think it's really good, and I'm not somebody who really likes FPS games.
Mm.
So I really enjoyed it. But yeah, so with that, let's move on to comic books since we're also a comic book store. Greg, tell us about your comic of the year.
My comic of the year, I read so many comics and sometimes I kind of forget what I read.
Mhm.
I hear
But
you.
one of the books that stood out for me, especially because it was the creative team I was really like excited for, is Image Comics Undiscovered Country, written by Scott Snyder and Charles Soule, and drawn by Giuseppe Camanucci. I'm gonna butcher his last name, but I've liked him for a while. Basically, what the book's about, well, actually, I read through the first story arc so far, but the book's been about basically America got walled off. I think it was 30 years. I forget exactly how long time frame, but America walled itself off from the rest of the world. The world's in two different sections. There's like a Pan-Asian and Pan-European. I forget exactly what what the European Union's called. It might be called European Union, but they're the two major like civilizations left besides wherever America is. And basically, there's this when the comic starts, there's also this disease that's going around that's killing off everybody. So they're trying to. Then what happens is they get this mysterious message from.
Is this a science fiction book? Because this doesn't sound like it is.
No, nothing. Like, it's funny how a lot of these books, a lot of these things that has been happening is kind of sort of happens and has been happening in the real world. It's kind of weird. Like, this was before the whole pandemic really started. Like when this book first came out. So long story short, they get this message from America saying you can get here. We have the cure for this. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. I should have written down notes, but I forget almost everything.
Yeah,
but
fine.
they had this cure, so basically get this team going to go to America. So they fly. There's like there's a person who's like represents the European Union. There's a person who represents the Pan Asian Union. There's a person who studied old American history, and not even old American, but just American history, and a couple other people, like the normal like D&D style group, a weapons expert, a scientist, that type of stuff. And basically, they go in, they find out it was not what exactly they thought it was going to be. I don't want to spoil much of it because I thought it was a really cool twist. But basically, America's not as friendly as they thought it was going to be. But it's crazy. It's post-apocalyptic. Spoilers are here a little bit here, so not really storyline wise, but it's basically they find it's almost like post-apocalyptic Mad Max-ish, but like even crazier because like there's they ride on like land sharks, like literally like sharks that run on the land and riding on those. There's weird like pterodactyl type thing. So it's like this weird thing that's like, how did this happen? That's kind of like, that's the mystery of like what's going on, at least the first story arc. And they almost have to do something like where it's the map of the United States kind of almost goes like circular to the very interior of the United States. So it's almost like the Yellow Brick Road, where like they go into different areas and they follow it to kind of, and it's like they have to get deeper into America to figure out what's going on and get out. There's a lot more like to it than what I'm talking about. There's a really cool twist that you find out pretty early on. In like I think it's issue 2 or 3 you find out about. But it's, if you like science fiction and like just really crazy like art design, and just the character design is really, really excellent in this book. Like I'm only on through issue 6, which is the first story arc, and it definitely gave me like a Mad Max on drugs type of vibe, even more so than a regular Mad Max type of movie or a comic book.
Yeah, the concept, remember, was really interesting, and I know the first issue had a really striking cover. It was like a map of North America, just the parts that were the United States are just whited out, like they just don't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know it's like one of those things is like America just disappeared to the world, nobody knows about it, and there's like an expedition going in.
Yeah, there was nobody talked to America for I think it's like 30 years or whatever it might have been. Again, I don't remember the exact time frame, but the creative team is excellent. I really enjoy like the whole premise of it. Besides the whole like the side story of like fighting their pandemic, which kind of like is a coincidence, but like there's more to it than that. But yeah, I highly recommend it, especially like science fiction. But it's a different type of book, and it's like not your typical. It's really out there. I mean, that's all I can really say about it, without spoiling much more of it. But
I know I've been waiting.
It's pretty cool concept.
Yeah, I've been waiting for the trade on that. I think it's gonna be. I just kind of missed the boat. I don't buy a lot of single issues anymore, just for personal reasons. It's just do I want to own this forever, kind of thing. So it's harder to jump into like new unproven like books, but it sounds really cool, and I want to check it out. Although Joe, you have the opposite thing. So why don't you tell us about your book that you picked for the year?
Well, this is my weakest of the categories. I come in and out of comic books, like reading, but and I can never pronounce. I can't pronounce.
I can say what it is if you
go for it, because I'll screw it up.
It's Usagi Yojimbo.
There you go.
It's Japanese for rabbit bodyguard.
Yes, I can do the Yojimbo. That's easy. Because the reason why I'm bad with that kind of stuff, so I don't want to butcher it. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the comic books and me are weird. I get into something and then I bounce back and forth. And I got this collection last Christmas, like 2019, and because it was one of those things that I saw like throughout the whole year, and I really love like Kurosawa movies, like Yojimbo, which is based, which then was based the Fistful of Dollars and like stuff like that. So that kind of like art style and pacing and stuff was always something that I loved. So I always saw this comic and I always gravitated towards that with this, Seven Samurais and all that kind of stuff. So like I was just trying to think while making the list of stuff. I was like, what did I look at, or what did I read? What grabbed me? And I was like, oh, it has to be this, because otherwise, I don't know anything else. But it's just that styling of Japanese folklore and traditional stuff like that it's up my alley, and it's something that I think I gravitated towards the most this year. I'm not as in depth with the comics. Sorry.
That's fine. I mean,
it's my weakest link. Like I remember years ago, as a kid, I was a comic guy. I bought all the the Spider-Man and I bought everything. Yeah. And then I realized reading wasn't my greatest attribute in life, because I'd read and fall asleep. So but every now and then it just hits me, and I buy like 1,800 books and just read a bunch of stuff. So
that's fun. I also read Usagi Yojimbo. It's one of my favorite comics for years. I've been collecting it for a while, and it's always of quality. Stan Sakai writes and draws every issue. They're doing like a side series now where they're kind of redoing a lot of his old stories. So it's kind of a good time to jump on. He just started again. They're at IDW now, so they kind of started over with new number ones. Although I think they're up to like issue 20 something now. But where Ninja Turtles goes, Usagi goes. So now they're all at IDW. But yeah, it's a good book. I also recommend grabbing it. But spoiler alert, I did not pick it as my book of the year. But we'll get there. Let's go on to John. Tell us about your favorite comic from 2020.
It was definitely Batman, hands down. Batman this year was really good for a multitude of reasons. The Three Jokers was really good, but that wasn't my pick. I started reading Batman again. I picked it up once Tom King kind of finished with it, and James Tynion picked it up around issue 86, I think.
It was
Yeah, it's 86.
All right.
Yeah, and it was really good. I like the way that he writes Batman. I think it's definitely more it's geared towards, like, I would compare it to like the Arkham video games. Like I like those games, and I like the way that Batman's written, and I think it's kind of on the same aspect as far as like he's dark, he's gritty, but he's also has like a personality. And I also like Jorge Jimenez's art. His art is really, really good. All the characters are well written, especially once you get towards issue 89, where a lot of the villains are introduced, and the new villains that are going to get introduced in the story arc are introduced, like the designer and Punchline. They're really good, and they add a lot to the story. But once you get into Joker War, which is I want to say 95 to 100. It gets really good, and it dives deep into Bruce Wayne's backstory, his past, and like the Monarch Theater and everything like that. And it shows you this new Joker, who is the same old guy who's pretty evil and pretty bad, but he's got new tricks up his sleeve. And it also shows a different side of Harley Quinn, who's a little jealous right now that Joker has a new girlfriend, sidekick kind of thing. But she also helps out Batman a lot throughout this, and Batman has to make decisions that in the past he's never had to make. So I think that James Tynion did a really good job on Batman so far. And I'm a little bit far behind. I'm not all caught up in Batman, but definitely from 86 to 100 is what I pretty much read this year, and it's definitely been my favorite.
So your favorite comic's really just Joker War.
Pretty much. Pretty much. It's kind of the arc that I started this year and then kind of finished into, and I have to catch up now that I'm on break. But
well, because you're not too far behind, because that Joker War ended with issue 100. I think they just went up to like 105, 106.
Yeah, they're up to 105.
105, yeah.
Now the aftermath, and I think I left off at 102 or 103. But yeah, I mean it is really good, and I think me and you talked about this, Scott, where it's like one of the things that they did really well is they kind of showed what happens when you strip away Bruce Wayne's money.
Mm-hmm.
I do wish that they dove a little bit deeper into that, because they do it for a couple issues and then he kind of gets it back, but it's a little weird without spoiling it. But
I think that would have been a really interesting status quo and direction to take it. Not saying that it's not bad that they didn't do that. Again, we don't want to spoil too much if you haven't read it. Trade paperback for Joker War should be coming out soon.
Yeah, I think it's coming up pretty soon, a couple months maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe even later this month. This is going to go up in January, on January 1st. But yeah, so
it's going to go on my staff pick rack for sure once we get it in, because
no problem.
It is definitely worth reading.
I agree. I agree with John. It was really good.
Yeah.
So
like I just finished Dark Designs, which is issue 94, and like I agree, if it wasn't Batman, I would have probably picked it, but like since I feel like I try to choose something that's a little different, but I will agree. Like I think, like I stopped reading Batman when after the first arc of Tom King, because I just thought it was awful. Like I heard it got better until and I heard like the City of Bane got good, but I was like, I'll just wait till Tynion comes on, because I really liked his actually run on Detective, which I recommend too to you, John. Detective Comics, his run on that was really good up until the end. Unfortunately, like it looks like he kind of got pushed off of it, but But Detective was very good. But yeah, I'm really digging Batman. I haven't done Batman this much in probably since Rebirth.
Oh, you know,
I like
He's a good writer.
yeah, I was say I'm a bit of a lapsed Batman reader, so this actually sounds pretty cool. Now, I'm not much of a Joker guy. Like, is this a good Joker story? Is it more of business as usual?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
It changed his character a little bit, but it's not in the sense of like Three Jokers where it's all about him. It mainly focuses on Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
Um,
Which is
so
weird
it-
because Batman books usually don't.
yeah, I know. It's funny because like with what Tom King did at the end of City of Bane was he killed off Alfred, and I think James Tynion does a good job of kind of using that to play on Bruce Wayne's emotions. Um, but yeah, it's a little bit of a psychological thriller in this sense because just the way it's written is really good, but it definitely pulls on the strings of Bruce Wayne has a lot of trauma from his childhood and from the murder of his parents.
Cool. Well, from one happy superhero, let's go to another one. Hey Wes, tell us about your comic.
Um, I picked this is another tough one, man, because I read so much stuff, but
yeah.
I narrowed it down to a book that I actually look forward to reading every time it comes out, and that's the first book I grabbed. So it's Daredevil.
Mhm.
Zdarsky's
been awesome.
current run on Daredevil is really good. It gives you a different perspective of Daredevil. We all know he's a street level hero, but it's like they really broke him down to a street level character. You deal with the whole Wilson Fisk being the mayor, and there's a lot of battle of Hell's Kitchen, and it's not with like super villains, it's with the rich. Um, and in the mix, not trying to give too much away, but Daredevil winds up killing somebody. And the current storyline is him dealing with the guilt of killing somebody. He doesn't feel he's worthy of protecting anybody. A lot of the issues, he's not in costume, which is unusual for a superhero book. Um, he it's more of him reflecting on his life and why he was chosen to do this and if he wants to do this anymore. And then he feels that he needs to pay for what he did, which is something a superhero would never do. They just kind of, it's like a casualty of war. But he feels remorseful of what happened, and he's trying to come to grips with that.
I mean, he is the
up
most
to-
Catholic character to ever exist. So
He is, and it's a lot of. He relies heavily on his faith to kind of guide him through it, and he doesn't always get there.
Okay.
Other outside influences kind of try to tell him what he should do. There was a confrontation with Spider-Man where Spider-Man tells him to give up the costume. He's like, "Stop being Daredevil." So, like I said, so there's a long period of time where there's no Daredevil. There's just Matt Murdock, and he kind of goes back to the black outfit that he wore in the Netflix show and in the Man Without Fear miniseries, up into the current issues where a lot of the speculators are gobbling up all the issues.
Yeah.
Because he does actually pay for what he did. So yeah, Daredevil is surprisingly really good this run.
Okay.
Wes,
Again,
I
I'm also a lapsed Daredevil guy.
Wes, I gotta ask you a question about this Daredevil. Because a couple of our comic customers came in and they talked about this series. I haven't read it yet, but they said it's going to go down as one of the best storylines in Daredevil history. What's your take on that? Do you agree with that?
I agree. This current story, because you're looking at Daredevil in a whole new light.
Right.
Like I said, he's not in costume. He's not running around like like your typical superhero, like Spider-Man saving the day. It's not like that. And because of the fact that he kills somebody, and I want to say outside of Wonder Woman, he's the only other superhero that I can remember that actually killed somebody.
Well, besides someone like
sure,
the Punisher, whose whole
right,
shtick is to
outside
kill
the
people,
Punisher.
and Wolverine.
But he's actually remorseful of what he did and feels he needs to pay for what he did. So which is totally different. It's something we haven't seen in current superhero comics.
Especially
yes.
something from Marvel.
Yeah. So no, yes,
Sure.
John, I agree. This is definitely one of the best Daredevil runs I've read in a long time.
I think you can make the debate to be top 5, definitely on there. Because I mean, you have, and it's debatable, but like you have the Frank Miller run, you have I think
Yeah.
the first Mark Waid run is excellent.
I was gonna say Mark Wade's tough to beat, but it's also very different. It's much more
Yeah.
lighthearted than the
Yeah, but that's why I said his first run. His second run, when they relaunched it, wasn't as good with the number one. When Marvel's kind of just relaunching willy nilly.
Is that the one with
the,
Blind Spot where he has a sidekick?
no. This,
no, that was Charles Soule, which was okay.
yeah, that was the.
Yeah.
It
I'm
was
sorry, yeah, Charles Soule now. No, Chip Zdarsky's now. And then I would say this Kevin Smith run is up there, and this one. So somewhere in the top 4, I think.
Yeah.
This run has been it's been really good.
And what are they up to, like 26 issues?
25.
25, 26.
25 is the speculator issue. 26 should be out, I think, in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
I know we're getting the second printings of number 25 in, and then the spoiler on it's right on the cover, of course.
Yeah.
But we won't talk about that here just yet. But I think it's a cool direction to go. I like the look of it, of the spoiler. So maybe, we think this is a good time to jump in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I would say jump in, but start from volume 1 of this run, because like it all kind of builds up to this,
Okay.
and it's been so good. Like it's just been that good. Like it's been excellent.
And we'll make sure we have it in stock so you can buy it from us. Or support your local comic book store, wherever you happen to be listening to this podcast at. Well, I'll get into my comic then. I picked Once and Future from Boom Studios by Kieran Gillen and Dan Mora. It goes into like it taps into my classic love for the like Vertigo dark fantasy books. Basically it's King Arthur's return, except England's only for his people and not anyone else, and he's kind of like this evil, like undead character. And it kind of deals with the power of stories. It's really, I'm gonna sound like a crazy person trying to describe it, but it makes a lot of sense when you read it. But basically, like, all of these stories are real, but you have to have like people on Earth that are kind of cast as different characters so the story can play out. And the one main character is kind of a reluctant hero. His grandmother was like has a mysterious past, but like was very clearly like a badass monster hunter that dealt with these kinds of things in the past. Again, we don't want to get into it without spoiling too much stuff, but definitely come in and flip through it, and I think it'll be up your alley. The art in it is awesome. I don't know what else Dan Mora's done, but I'm definitely paying attention to what they do now.
He did Power Rangers for a while.
Yeah, see, I know he's been doing variants for Power Rangers right now.
He did the interiors for the first little bit, I think.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
His stuff's really cool. The colors are popping, especially greens. They use a lot of greens in it. Yeah, it's really good. I don't want to describe it too much, but it's definitely like dark fantasy, like dark mystical kind of fantasy, if that's your jam. But I was kind of doing what you did, Wes, where I was like, what books do I get when I get books, like what's the top of the pile like that I want to read first? And this was one of them. It was between this and Fantastic Four, so I guess I'll give that a small honorable mention. But that one gets held back because Marvel keeps interrupting it with events, and it's always really frustrating when that happens.
Yeah, we all hate events.
Oh God, I'm so sick of them. Anyway,
especially Exosword.
Oh yeah, well that's why no one picked Exoswords or an X-Men book this year. Let's move on to one of the next category, which is one of the the other big pillars of what we sell at the store, and this is like our collectibles. So Greg, why don't you tell us about your favorite collectible of the year?
The one I like the most this year, they're called pixel frames. You've probably seen them at conventions if you've been to conventions. It's not a new thing, but this company, I think it's actually called Pixel Frame. I'm not 100% sure. They do a really good job. It's a shadow box of like video game characters in their world. So it's like kind of like shadow box 3D pop out type of thing. It's really neat. They've done Castlevania, they've done Mega Man, they've done
There's a bunch of Sonics.
Streets of Rage,
Yeah.
Altered Beast Sonics, Street Fighter, and they're doing this. There was another bunch that they just announced. I forget which ones they are, but like again, it's something new. But their presentation of it, it's really nice. Very good price point. Like the smaller ones are what $12.99 are they, Sky? I forget.
They're $12.99, and then the big ones I think are like $25, which they're nice. I like the big
they're
ones
9 by
4. Yeah, 9x9s.
Yeah, it's a cool little collectible for like that video game lover who was always there's not a lot of merch sometimes for some video games, besides like plushies or like a high-end statue. So it's a nice little like mid-range, like low-range type of thing.
Yeah, like you never see stuff for like Altered Beast or Streets of Rage, but they have these things. They have a lot of Genesis ones. They don't have the license to do like Nintendo ones yet. So like there's no Mario or Zelda. I think once I start getting them though, I'm going to end up getting a bunch of them and they're going to be in my game room. But I think it's going to take like a Link to the Past or something for me to like get that first one. And then once I do that, it's going to be like, it's all she wrote. Now they look cool.
We have a Mega Man X one. I can see it. It's right over there.
They look neat when you see a photo of them, but like come into the store and look at them. They look really cool in person.
Yeah, they're really popular. A lot of people really like them. I think the Sonic one is probably our most popular though.
It's funny, like even like I try to get anything Sonic I can because like people are just dying for Sonic anything.
People are starved for Sonic. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would say,
but they're really neat looking. Like I really dig them, and they look nice on a wall.
Yeah, they're really nice display pieces. Like I said, put them with your like retro game collection. It's gonna make it pop.
Yeah, I remember seeing them last year at New York Comic Con. I thought they were really cool, and then we got them in the store, and I was like super excited. They're really cool.
Yeah, they're a new thing for us this year in the store. I'm really glad we're A, we got them, and B, that they found like an audience. Like they are selling very well. I mean, we're pretty picked over right now, but as of this recording, Christmas was 2 days ago, so it's been a lot of we've been selling a lot of the cool things that we've got. We'll get them back in stock. These will be things we carry for a while. But yeah, so they're really cool. I mean, again, this is an audio podcast, so it's not going to sound exciting, but like 3D screenshots from video games are much cooler than they have any right to be. I think.
Yeah, you can go to our website, check them out. Level Up at Shop Level Up. So
yeah,
check out those videos. Or just pixel frames anywhere.
Pixel frames, yeah.
Yeah.
But let's move on to something a little different for us. Joey, why don't you tell us a bit about your collectible?
All right, so I teetered on like two things. The one I chose is different, but the one I didn't choose was a Hasbro Marvel's Legends retro Kingpin toy, because I absolutely positively loved the Kingpin toy from like the animated series, like the Spider-Man back in the day. So they made one that's sort of like that, and I love it. But I went with a weird one for me. I don't really collect pop figures. I have a few of different things like Pee-wee and stuff that I really like, but I have a weird collection when it comes to glassware, and most noticeably fast food restaurants. But they came out with, perfect for an audio podcast, pops of the McDonald's characters. So they have a bunch of them. They have, I have Officer Mac here, and Mayor McCheese, and Ronald. I got them all. The Hamburglar, Grimace. I saw them. For some reason, I really, really like them. They made like toys like these. I forget, early 2000s. They had a few of like the McDonald Land remakes, and I found them out in the wild, and then I saw these shortly before lockdown, or right around lockdown, and I was like, I have no need for pops, but I need these pops, which is, I think, is the perfect sign of a collectible. Like, I have no need for them, but I must collect them all. And actually, this morning I was looking. They have the Fry Guys. They have Birdie. They have the chicken nuggets. They have one that's dressed like a cowboy and playing like a bunch playing music. So I'm like, this is how it happens. You end up buying every pop, and the next thing you know.
About the chicken nuggets. Do you think they're going to just do them in the mini pop size, or are they like the full pop?
I think they're the full pop. But
oh my god,
Pop's weird with that. They've had times, or Funko's had times where they missed the boat on like big creatures they could have, or big people they could have. Like they had Andre the Giant, and he was normal size. You can have him big because he's Andre the Giant.
We'll say the Iron Giant. They've done a couple of them, and he's just the regular 4-inch pop.
Yeah, it's like make them that way. You'll sell them, but these weird ad icons of just McDonald's stuff. I think it's a touchback to like my childhood, because McDonald's was one of those places as a kid you go after you get a good report card. It was like a treat. So like I have that connection. I remember the commercials and you had the chicken McNuggets and the toys and the little birdies and these things. I'm just like, I'd have to have them. And plus I collect weird glassware with characters on them from McDonald's and Burger King. And
it's funny, Joe, because one thing I'm gonna ask, did you ever go to the McDonald Land? That was like Berlin.
No.
Area, like it was like a big giant, like it was like big giant indoor play, like it was McDonald's, but it was like big giant indoor play area also. It's called McDonald Land.
I might have as a child. I don't remember because my family's from that area. So
okay, because and I remember I had a couple birthday parties there, but I always thought that was cool because I always thought it was just so neat going. It was inside, indoors, the whole thing, like and just like cover like ginormous play area inside. Like not just like the ball pit, but it was just like all the rides and all the things you would see.
Wow.
But also too, it's kind of funny because I collect weird glassware too. So I have like the Muppets ones,
right,
the Roadrunner and Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote are my two favorite cartoon characters. I do have some of the I have the Garfield ones. So nice. I whenever I see something like that, I think of you, but I'm also like I need this for myself.
Oh yeah,
I love glassware.
Yeah, the weirdest ones I have are like I never realized. Like I knew McDonald's had it because my mom worked at McDonald's, so I like when she was younger. So I've had glassware from when she was, working there. But Burger King, of all things, had like characters, and I was like, "What is this?" Other than just the king himself. So I've collected a bunch.
So
I use them.
Nice.
I'm not like put them in the cabinet.
I know Burger King had the Kids Club kids because I remember I used to collect like books of collectibles you could get from them.
Most of my collection is weird, but that's not.
Man. Now you're making me. I want a burger so bad right now. Now that I saw Mayor McCheese and stuff when you put them to the camera.
Like I remember, like talking about McDonald Land. I remember going to like McDonald's and having birthday parties where they had the ball pits, but also like you climbed into the Officer Mac's head, and it was like a little prison thing.
Oh yeah,
like,
I remember that. Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, like so that it connects. I mean, that's what a collector does. It remembers things of your childhood, and they put these things out. I have no need for pops. They sit underneath the TV in my living room.
Yeah.
But like, I needed Mayor McCheese.
So John, this would probably we sound like crazy people. McDonald's used to be a big deal, like back in the 80s, as like a destination. Now it's just like garbage that you do so you don't feel hungry anymore.
Yeah. I mean, even when I was a kid, McDonald's was like the place like you'd go and like you just like play in the play pit there.
Yeah.
I don't think it was as cool as you guys had it though. I've seen pictures of McDonald's used to have like the N64 hooked up and like I guess the mid so that looks kind of cool. But yeah, I definitely didn't have the experience that you guys had at like any fast food restaurants, but I could understand like the joy that kind of nostalgia would bring. I always thought Burger King had better like I guess you can call them like Happy Meal toys, but like they're like their kids' toys. One of my like greatest Burger King experiences was I think back when like Revenge of the Sith was coming out, Burger King did like these watches and like these tin cans. And I remember like I wanted to collect all of those. Like they were like so cool. It was like every episode, every movie had like a different watch, and you'd get like a Jedi and a Sith on like the back of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk about Burger King toys because I tried to get all the Pokemon ones when that was a thing, and I ended up getting so many Mewtwo's.
Didn't McDonald's start the whole Beanie Baby craze?
No, I think Beanie Babies was already a thing.
But I know they were giving them away like in their Happy Meals and stuff.
Right.
And we'll
at one point, I forget who was doing that.
We'll do an episode on like fast food value meal toys, and we'll actually do some research ahead of time so we know what we're talking about. Because I think this is going to be an untapped well of potential now that we're having this discussion.
I think so. I think Funko should do a collaboration with McDonald's to make like little Happy Meal toys or something like that.
I'd be shocked if there hasn't been like
they make those little robot like the French fries that turned into the robots, and then they have
Oh yeah, the Transformers. I had a bunch of those. Oh yeah, we'll wax nostalgic about that.
This is bad. After this podcast, I'll be looking on eBay for all the.
Yeah.
No,
After
actually,
this, I might go to McDonald's and get a. I'm feeling
My
like a
bad.
really greasy burger right now. But John, tell us about your best collectible of the year.
This year, like most years I've picked, was a Star Wars lightsaber. So the FX lightsabers that Hasbro makes, they're really really cool, really detailed, and they're perfect for like the ultimate Star Wars lightsaber collector. Um, as a kid, I used to collect them, and throughout the years, I've been collecting them. And funny enough, I actually have this one here. So this is it. It doesn't have the actual saber in it right now. I have that in my closet, but it's really really nice. This is definitely the most expensive one I've bought, but it is the nicest one I bought. It's the only one that I've found that changes colors. So they usually only come like in one color. Like Luke's Return of the Jedi saber was only green. Obi-Wan's is only blue. This one, since it's Darth Revan, it changes from purple to red, which is really really cool.
I mean, that's a big part of the game is you build your lightsaber as you go and you customize it, so you can keep changing the colors, to different things.
Yeah, it's really cool, especially if you're like a big Knights of the Republic, Knights of the Old Republic fan or something like that. Like, if you like Darth Revan, it's really cool. Or if you're just a Star Wars fan in general, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, Knights of the Old Republic 1 is my most favorite Star Wars game, and it's the only. I think it had the biggest twist in Star Wars for me, because going into Empire, I already knew that Darth Vader was Luke's father. But I didn't really know the twist in Knights of the Old Republic, which I don't know. Do we want to spoil a 20-year-old game?
I agree. It was major. It was major.
But definitely like cemented Revan as like a really cool character that I cared about. It's one of the few times I played a game and then I immediately played it again afterwards because I wanted to see how your decision, like if I went down the dark side path this time, how it would change things. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool that they're doing they so rarely do stuff with the Knights of the Old Republic characters. Like I think it was a year or two ago in the Black series, like they had a short pack Revan, and it became like the most popular one of that like era. And we sold out of it. It was impossible to get back in. It was really expensive.
I know that I know nothing's confirmed right now, but they're like talking about another trilogy being like Knights of the Old Republic based Star Wars trilogy, or at least TV shows or something like that.
They've been talking about that for a long time. So like, I mean, was it one of the 40 TV shows that Disney announced the other day?
Probably. I have no idea. Honestly, I can't keep track anymore of what.
Don't forget, they got to do the High Republic stuff now too. That's their new baby. High Republic
series is going to come out in January.
What is the High Republic? Is it just like in Colorado? Like,
I have no idea. Honestly, I couldn't explain it. But I know it's supposed to take place before.
It's early on, yeah.
Yeah, it's way before like the fall of the Jedi or something like that.
So it's way before like episode 1 and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's before that. I think it's after the Old Republic though.
Just somewhere in between. I mean, the Old Republic was like thousands of years ago, so.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not really sure, but hopefully within like the first or second issue, we'll get some like backstory or whatever. Explain it.
All right, so we'll move on to I think it's cool. I probably would keep it in purple mode just because
the purple looks nice. It does look nice.
I can imagine, but it's cool. It's cool that you have the option for color.
Yeah.
Because like I said, that was a mechanic in the game. But speaking of games, Wes, why don't you tell us about your collectible?
I think I picked the same thing last year, but now I picked the newer version. I picked the arcade one up, the Marvel Superheroes one.
You might have picked like a different Marvel versus Capcom or something one last year.
I don't know. Yeah. You know what? It's I grew up, the age of the arcade, and I miss the arcade feel. I miss putting my quarter up, waiting in my place in line. So when they announced the Marvel Superheroes with the special edition with the light up marquee and the special joystick and the upgraded buttons, I was all about it. If this one has Marvel Superheroes, it comes with X-Men Children of the Atom, and then it comes with the Punisher, which was a side scroller final fight type of game where you played as either Punisher or Nick Fury. yeah, so like Joe said earlier, this is why we collect stuff, because it triggers those fond memories. And this, yeah, we have Starcade, and I'm so glad they're there, because it brings me back to when arcades were popular. But for people who can't get to an arcade or doesn't have a Starcade in their neighborhood, this arcade one-up cabinets are the next best thing.
And you can bring them home. You don't need to have a roll of quarters.
There you go.
Yeah, that one's really cool. The Punisher is such a random inclusion in that, because it's the other two are fighting games, and like that's how it's laid out, the buttons. But it's cool that you got a third game in it, because they have released ones where it's just two or one game and you're just kind of done.
Yeah.
Now you played there was a gigantic one at New York Comic-Con last year, right? You played that there?
Yes, with the giant size buttons, and yeah. It was I saw Harry there.
Yeah.
And we were kind of just like, both oogling over this ginormous machine where it took two hands to like, push the button. That was a very cool commodity that they had there.
Yeah. Say, I think Harry also picked up one of these. I know Marvel Superheroes is like a big touchstone game for him too. But speaking of arcades and Harry specifically, I chose for my collectible, I picked the Stern's new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pinball game. It's kind of a little bit of a high-end collectible. I played it at the pinball gallery in Malvern got one earlier this year while it was just before the 4th of July. So our buddy Kendall lives out that way, and I was like, we're both off, like we both want to play this game. This was the first time we'd been seeing each other since lockdown and stuff happened. So I went to his house and then we went over there because we were just like, yeah, let's test out the Ninja Turtles game. But unbeknownst to us, our good friend Harry and his girlfriend were there also to do the same thing. So we played a bunch of the 4-player modes in it because the game is so full featured. It's so much fun. It's everything I wanted from a Ninja Turtles game. It's based on the 80s cartoon. So you can do like 4-player cooperative, 4-player competitive, 2v2, 3v1. Your turtles have different skills. So like they have like different kinds of shots that they're better at, and you can get experience and like level them up and make them better and more interesting. But like all of the little modes are presented as like episodes of the show. So when they start, they have a little title card splash screen. They apparently just updated the code. Now it uses actual footage from the show instead of just like their CGI models. It's another Ninja Yeti designed one, like for the art. So it looks really cool. It's got a little party wagon. That's, where it starts your multi-ball and stuff, like toy in it. It's got a glider in it. It's really cool. The topper is like the scene from the opening where like the Technodrome comes up and the turtles are in the foreground and it's kind of low angle. It's a really cool machine. It's really fun to play. A simple thing in it is, as someone who now we now have games on location and you sometimes need to change stuff. You can access all the tournament modes and stuff just right from without opening it up. You can do it all from the buttons on the machine, instead of having to dig through the code and change things. It's really cool. It's really striking and it's a lot of fun. I don't know if any of you guys had a chance to play it yet.
What are the chances of us getting it in the store? For those who don't know, we do have pinball machines in the store.
Yeah, I know it's since we played it, it shot up to the top of the list of ones to get because I don't think anything that's like hasn't come out yet sort of beat it. Or
it's highly likely.
It's highly likely, yeah. So we'll leave it at that. I don't want to say definite.
66?
Was that?
No, Batman 66 is still really expensive.
Okay. On that one.
That's Jersey Jack, right? Batman 66?
No, I think that's Stern.
Still Stern? Okay.
That was an early like comeback Stern one. But like the code's not even done on that one yet. And it's been like 8 years. Like Adam West was still alive because he recorded new stuff for it, so it's been a while. I think he died in like 2016. Because I have a poster for ACBC and that says 2015, and that's when I met him on the wall in front of me. But no, yeah, the Turtles game is really good. When they announced the Ninja Turtles game, it's like, hey, it could be go a couple of different ways. It could, be, but it's like everything I wanted it to be. There's like all kinds of like boss modes and like team up characters, and each turtle you play as has like a different team up character. So like Splinter shows up to help Leonardo, Casey Jones for Raphael, Metalhead for Donatello, and then one of the neutrinos for Michelangelo. No, it's fun. If you guys get a chance to play it, I recommend playing it wherever you happen to find it.
Turtles seem to have a good year. I know toy wise, I know NECA has been putting out the Turtles in Time toys and stuff like that, and they're incredible looking.
I wanted to carry them, but they're so expensive.
Yeah.
It's like I was like, that's way too high for like a figure.
Yeah, it's like a special market of people that would buy them, but they're incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they are amazing.
Statues that are really cool though.
I would say we just got I think they're called Ninja Elite line, where they're based on the original comics, so they're all in the red and stuff. They came out a little too late. Them and the 1/8 scale PVC statues for them too. They might have picked my collectible of the year, but I guess either way I was going to have a Ninja Turtles selection here. But I think this is a good place to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with our favorite TV show movies, and then we'll get into best surprises. Created by husband and wife team Kendall and Kayla, Star Savior Bunny combines Sailor Moon-esque superheroics with the challenges of early adulthood. Read for free at tapis.io and check out their Instagram at Star Savior Bunny for new updates and projects. Thank you for listening to our podcast, but have you checked out our store yet? We sell all kinds of nerdy products from comics and graphic novels to retro video games, model kits, toys, and statues, and more. Visit us at levelupentertainment.com, and as a special exploratory promotion, the first 20 people to use the code FRIENDSCAST at checkout will receive 10% off their first purchase. If this is successful, we will do more podcast exclusive promotions in the future. That's levelupentertainment.com and code FRIENDSCAST. FRIENDSCAST. All right, and we're back. Greg, let's talk about your favorite TV show this year.
Well, it's my TV show is probably not too surprising. I mean, maybe if you know me, it might be surprising, but it's one of the shows that have really made the rounds this year. The Queen's Gambit. Such a great show. Like, I started watching it because, long story short, kind of like talking about nostalgia. My grandfather, when I was younger, we used to go into the Sunday paper and play the chess game that's on there. It had like an old chess match with like two like chess players, and we would play that game, and he would explain to me like, how to move, like why that move was good, or like why the defensive play was good, or whatever you want to say. So I was like, oh, this sounds interesting, but I never really thought how engrossing a show about it's more than just chess, but how it just the characters drew you in. The show never talked down to you. Even if you didn't know how to play chess, you kind of got to feel for chess, even if you have no idea how to play the game or the moves or the psychology of the game itself, and how big it actually was in the 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, still fairly big now, but like in that time, because I think the show takes place in the 60s, 70s. I forget exactly, but it was
I haven't
huge.
seen it, so I'm not sure.
But the characters draw you in. There's not a bad character in the bunch. All the characters are, there's no character that's like so goody. That's like, you're like, ugh. All the characters have flaws, and they're just like real fleshed out people. The cinematography was great. And just the show was it was just funny for, like I said, a show about chess being so engrossing for that hour it was, or 45 minutes or whatever it was. But like, it just like, I was like, the episode's done? Wow, I can't believe this episode's done already. It just flew by. I mean, literally, there's like the action in the show is more or less them playing chess when they do play the chess. But it's character driven. And I just thought it was just an excellent show for something that was, it could have been one of my best surprises too, because I say it's who would have thought like a show about chess would have been so engaging, and how many people really seem to enjoy this show?
Yeah,
I mean,
people-
it has its plot.
Yeah, so people
So
really
good.
took off on it. One of the main things we've been asked for this year was chess games, and I think it's because of Queen's Gambit.
No, it has. I was actually reading like I was the I think on Amazon, like they, or I forget exactly where, but like it said like how much percentage over like people have been searching for chess, or like it was Google, I forget exactly, or like the Google search for chess boards or chess. But it's crazy, like how, like I said, like chess is not a game that's you kind of just pick up, well, you pick up and play, but there's so much more to it.
Well,
And
it's
just
one of
crazy
those
to think, like,
easy
how
to
many people
learn,
got
tough to
excited for it.
master. You know.
Yeah, like it's one of sort of, I kind of, I mean, chess is way more, it's way more in depth, but like I kind of like it to Othello, where it's like, yeah, it's, you just flip over, you know, you put them, you flip the colors over, but there's way more to it. Othello's another game where you plan ahead, like you try to force your opponent to a move that you're thinking about doing because you want to move, because that works well for you. That's kind of what, you know, chess is kind of like in a quick synopsis, like that's what you're doing. You're playing to force your opponent to make the bad move. And that's kind of like, it just, but it's like I said, it's crazy to think that show about chess is like, there's so much hype behind it, and was a hype behind it, should I say.
Yeah,
People seem to
My
really
wife
enjoy it.
watches it.
And there are some, like, a lot of, yeah, there are a lot of, but there's some minor, like, character things, like, that you can, you know, you can nitpick about, and there's some, like, and they're not, I can't say nitpick, but they're definitely critiques, and, you know, I get why people said it, but overall, though, I thought it was a fantastic show, and I would recommend watching it. Like, the 10 episodes it is, or whatever, 8 episodes, it flew by.
Yeah, it sounds like it's up my alley. It's something I've been meaning to watch. It's just ironically, I haven't really had time. It's just been real busy this holiday season. And I feel like it's something I kind of need to be in the mood for. Like, I can't just pop it on.
Yeah, I think once you start watching it, you'll just watch it. You know, you might even binge it, but like, yeah, it's one of those things where you really have to be in the mindset to watch the first episode, just feel like, and kind of get engrossed by it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool. I'll check that out. Joe, you kind of have an interesting pick for us.
Yeah. Well, so I watched I watched a lot of sports and the Food Network, so I didn't want to pick anything like that because I watched baseball. I listened to baseball, but it wasn't like the best this year. It was good. It wasn't the best. But Katie and I, you know, with all the pandemic going on, all the crazy, you just wanted something that you could watch that felt good. You can just get distracted from the world, but also like enjoy. And I went with the Great British Bake Off. Why with that? Well, it's a cooking show, but it's like, it's so different than like American cooking shows. Like, there's just a difference. It's just the way they presented the jokes, the humor, you know, I just love.
They're not mean.
It's just like everything you can, like, I don't know why, but like I feel like American cooking shows, the show like the Cupcake Wars, like every cupcake looks like a cupcake. Or like the British Baking Off, it's like, well, they had to make these tarts, and well, that actually looks like a tart, that looks like a giant mess, and that looks like a ham sandwich. Like, you can tell the difference. The way it was presented, they did it this season. It was delayed because of COVID, obviously. They were in self-isolation, didn't go anywhere. They were stuck there. It's just everything about it was so lighthearted. And it's like, you know, 50-minute episodes, and you look forward to them at the end of every week because it was on Fridays and like on Netflix. So it was like every week we could sit down and be like, hey, you want to watch the baking show? And we'll sit there and watch it. And then while you're watching that, we fall back on all the other ones because it was just for an hour, all I thought about was looking at baked goods. Who didn't want to look at baked goods and not think about, you know, the fact that couldn't really go anywhere and get baked goods because the world was such a crazy place. But it just felt so, it just was what we needed and I needed during all this pandemic, to kind of just have something good to watch TV, something quote unquote wholesome, but like just funny and cute and charming and just perfect for the season that we're in with, you know, the pandemic and everything. It just was, I can't recommend watching it enough. You might be listening and go, why would I want to watch a baking show? Just watch it. You end up getting hooked. end up getting hooked. It just
Great show.
the way the Paul Hollywood is and Prue. Prue, it was funny. We were watching the holiday one, and Prue's like 80 years old, but you would have no idea by her outfits and her like crazy, colors that she wears, and then with like Noel Fielding and all that kind of stuff. It's subtle humor, but it's not subtle British humor. So it's not like you're watching like a Mighty Python or anything like that, where you have to kind of be into it, like British humor to get it. It's just little jokes. It's funny. It's a cooking show. If you like watching Chopped, if you like watching Top Chef, if you like any of those kind of shows, this is a thing you'll really enjoy.
Cool. I mean, great's right in the title, so
Yeah, it's great.
I haven't watched it. I don't know, maybe I will now. It's not because
it's worth it.
Because my original instinct's like, oh, it's just a cooking show. I've seen those. Unless it's the Japanese Iron Chef, it doesn't do anything for me. But I'll give this one a shot.
They're great. Well, they're not professional chefs. That's the thing. They're not like, they're just people who cook at home and like enjoy making pastries and making bread. They're not like, he owns a restaurant and sells this and this. It's like he's a lawyer, he's a school teacher, and he just likes baking stuff. And you see the stuff they make, and it's like, wow. It just makes it real, like, unlike a lot of like the cooking or baking shows in America where it's like the Cupcake Wars. It's like, I own a bakery and we make cupcakes for half the city. It's like, no, this guy just, his daughter put him up to being on the show, and because of the tarts that he makes. So it's really, really good. I recommend it highly.
Okay. We'll move on then. And John, you're the only person that picked a movie this year.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, there was not a lot of competition from the movie department.
No, there wasn't. But the reason why I picked the movie is because my show would have been Seinfeld, but I felt that was a little too outdated now.
I would have booed you off the show.
I would have defended you, Sean. I would have muted Greg, and we would have talked about it. I love Seinfeld.
Me and Scott talked about Seinfeld today at
At work, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, Tenet was really good. I really like Christopher Nolan movies. I think he's a great director. I really liked Inception the first time I saw that in high school, and Tenet's really good. It's confusing, and I could definitely understand why people don't like it if they don't like it. But I thought it was really good. It's one of those movies that's like, you watch it up to a certain extent, and then once you get to like the middle of the movie, you're like, oh wait, that makes sense. The thing that I saw like 20 minutes ago, whatever. Now that all makes sense. It's hard to explain, but if you do get a chance to watch it when it comes to DVD or Blu-ray or whenever that happens, I would definitely give it a shot. It's an interesting story, and the cast I thought was an interesting cast. I mean, it's Robert Pattinson's in it. I forgot his name, but it's Denzel Washington's son, who's a really good actor. He was in Black Klansman, I think, too. And there's a couple other just interesting cast choices, but they're all really good, and the movie is really entertaining from beginning to end. It's action packed, and the story is pretty compelling too. It's a good story.
Yeah, I know it was like Hollywood's pinning its hopes on this being a success, and I think it underperformed because Christopher Nolan made it have to go to the theaters, and people were encouraged to not go to the theaters.
Yeah, it was one of those things that like me and my friends were just like, well, what do you want to do? Go see a movie. What movie? Tenet, I guess, because it was the only thing playing.
Yeah.
But I going into the movie, I had no idea what it was going to be about, but I ended up really, really liking it, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think the marketing didn't do it any favors, because up until like I read a review, I was like, I don't even know what this is, other than it's a movie with Christopher Nolan.
Yeah,
I mean, it's sort of like how Inception was too. Like you watch a trailer, you have no clue what this movie's about. Like,
even while watching Inception, you really don't know what's going on until maybe the end, and that's kind of is. One of the coolest things that I think about Tenet is actually its title. Without spoiling the movie or giving away like any cool bits and pieces, the name Tenet is, so it's TEN, which is 10, and then net is NET. It's hard to explain that without spoiling it, but Just the way the movie goes, the title works really well with how the movie works. Again, it's hard to explain
Well,
without.
and I know the title is also a palindrome, so it's the same forwards as it is backwards.
Yeah,
I know that goes in with the movie as well.
that's kind of what I was trying to explain. But yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I think that's pretty genius. But um, yeah, if you like Christopher Nolan movies, you're gonna like this one. If you
Yeah, I
don't,
really want to see it.
then I don't know if you would like it. If you have a hard time watching like movies that are like you really have to like focus in on, it might not be for you. But if you like a good story that is a little, hard to wrap your mind around, then you might like it.
Okay. Wes, why don't you tell us about your TV show you chose?
I picked Cobra Kai.
Okay.
I know it was on YouTube like what, a year or two ago. But then Netflix got it, and then everybody was raving about it. So I
Well,
was
because
like, you know what?
people actually watch Netflix.
Exactly.
No one buys YouTube license or whatever it is.
I was
The
like, hey,
YouTube Red.
let's sit down and watch this Cobra Kai, because everybody keeps saying how good it is, and I got hooked immediately. You know, I have memories of watching the Karate Kid in the movie theater. So, and a lot of it is the flashbacks. So, me and my wife were like, "Oh, you remember this? Oh, this is when this happened, and oh, that's cool. He's still using this and referring to that." So we can actually relate to the movie, which and the story was great. Um, it continued the story. If you've ever seen the Karate Kid, um, I showed it to my kids, and they liked it. They hooked on Cobra Kai. It was just, I was surprised. It was very well done. Very well done. It continues the story of the two main characters in the movie, um, with their kids, and it's like the next generation. But yes, Cobra Kai was it for me this year.
Yeah,
One of
I
the
started.
shows I really want to catch.
Yeah, I started watching it, and I think it's not for me. Not, I don't want to say it's bad. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's my jam. But I started watching because like you and like everyone else was like, "Wow, it's really good." I remember I really dismissed it when it was on YouTube, because also I'd have to start paying YouTube, which I'm not going to do. But I was just like, "Oh, it sounds so pathetic. Like these old men are still defined by something that happened when they were like 16." But apparently it's not really that. And I don't know. I was like I said, I liked Karate Kid when I was a kid, but I haven't really thought about it since I was like 7. So it's just, I guess maybe it's just one of those things, like, because I don't know, something about Cobra Kai is not catching me. Maybe there's like some sort of twist later in the season where it's like, oh, okay, because that happened with Game of Thrones. When Ned Stark's head came off, like that's when the show turned around for me and it got really interesting. So I'm kind of waiting for maybe that to happen, but so far it hasn't happened for me in the first season.
Okay.
But I'll
Well,
at least give it the first season. Like I'm not hating it. I just don't think it might just not be my thing, which is fine.
which is which it could be.
Because
I
I
mean,
know
season
my
three
show is
starts.
kind of a hard sell.
Yeah, season 3 starts in January, sometime in January, and I mean, I see, we have a comic now based on Cobra Kai, so the popularity is definitely there. It was good.
I mean, yeah, it's cool for people that are into it. Like, I just like I said, I was never into Karate Kid like that.
Yeah, it's on my
Ralph
list.
Macchio looks like he hasn't aged a day.
No.
But yeah, I guess with that, I'll move into my pick. And I almost forgot that this came out in 2020 because it came out like the very first week in January. But I went with BoJack Horseman season 6. As I discussed in our queer representation episode, BoJack Horseman is a very important show to me, not just because it's like a really great and funny show, but it helped me like learn things about myself. And it's one of the few times I think with a season or series finale where like I think they really nailed the ending, because it was always a really good show, but like once we knew this was going to be the last season, I was like, I kind of curious to see where they're going to end it, because the show's been sort of meta with its messages about, because it talks a lot about TV and how it's not life, and how like on TV shows you expect like stories to end and there to be closure, but like that's not how life is. Because earlier in the series, like his mother died just like unexpectedly, like, and as a viewer It just cut like she's alive in one episode, and then the next is her funeral. Because that's just kind of how things happen sometimes. But like, the whole series is like Bojack's sort of trying to be a better person. You really get why he is. You really want to hope for him. He backslides, and like it seemed like the way that the season was like he was finally got his life together, even though they were definitely showing that like horrible things he's done in the past will catch up to him. But like the penultimate episode, The View from Halfway Down, their penultimate episodes every season are usually like amazing pieces of television, and this one specifically, I was like blown away by. If you go on our website and look at it, like there's the picture I chose from, it's sort of a screenshot from that last moment of that. But really great character show, and this was a really fitting send off to it. It's one of those things. I think John and I were talking about Game of Thrones earlier today at the store, and like how the ending of that like poisons the good parts of it for me. That like I don't even recommend you watch the show. This is one where like I think the show is enhanced on a repeat viewing because of the ending. Like even knowing where it goes, it makes like their triumphs and their follies like kind of a little bit more poignant. Again, I don't want to spoil it too much, but if you guys haven't watched it, you definitely should. A big problem with BoJack when you first start watching it is the first 6 episodes are kind of intentionally not what the show is going to be like. And I know that definitely like they got really blasted in reviews when it first came out. So like it took a little while for it to find its footing, but it's a really good show. And I think because its ending is so good, I kind of had to pick it as my show of the year. Plus there's all kinds of animal puns. It's amazing.
It's only because I never wanted to like really, like it looked okay, but then I was like, this character, I don't like him. Like, why am I gonna watch a show about a character I don't like?
Yeah, you don't like him. Like I said, that's what I mean. It's like kind of a hard sell. Like,
well, I guess not like a strong word, relate to or like root or whatever, like whatever draws you into a show. Because like
he's kind of a more realistic take on a character like a Morty or a Rick rather from Rick and Morty.
And that's why I don't think I like Rick and Morty. And
I also don't like Rick and Morty, but the trouble is like the difference is like Bojack is framed when he does things that are bad, he's wrong. Rick is always proven right by the story. And that's what like so basically the entire story validates his behavior. Bojack's life is terrible, and it's terrible because he is terrible.
Gotcha. And that's like I was just saying, like that's the reason going back a little bit. That's the reason I don't like Seinfeld, because there's not one likable character in that show. They're all creeps who get who. I know it's the basis of the show, and I get that because like I love Married with Children. They're all pretty creepy too, but Married with Children works. Seinfeld is they never like.
Greg, we'll save it for a Seinfeld episode. We can have a debate.
But yeah, we can and we will. Yeah. But that's why I don't like shows like that where I personally can't connect with somebody in some way, form, or fashion. Doesn't have to even like the like.
I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it's fun to laugh at people that are bad. Like I love It's Always Sunny, and they're terrible people, like the worst people that ever existed.
Fair enough. And I find that show pretty amusing. So
yeah, so and it's also a comedy, but it's also gets really heavy. It's a really strong character show. Like I love character driven things. Whether they're dramas or comedies or have an element of both. And it's also like
one of these days I'll watch it.
BoJack's also extremely silly at the same time too. It's one of those things like tonally it shouldn't work, but it does. I really like it. I highly recommend giving it a shot. Like I said, it's going to seem really corny and bad in the beginning, and that's kind of intentional. And I don't necessarily think that was the way to go, but I get why they did what they did.
Okay.
The show's really good. You push through the first couple episodes, and then once it reveals itself, it's just gold from there on out till the very end.
That's how I also feel about Mo and I have just gotten into Schitt's Creek, and like the first 2 seasons, like the show turns the last episode of season 2.
Yeah,
first season was just so.
I watched Schitt's Creek twice this year, once for myself, and then I made my dad watch it, so I watched it with him.
Yeah, so like Mo and I were on season 3 right now, or no, we just started season 4. So like after that first like 2 seasons, like it turned and the show turned and like this show is amazing. Like I get it why people love this show.
I'll watch anything with Dan Levy now. Like I that's such a good show. And it's Schitt's Creek, like so shit is SCHITT. So we're not technically saying a bad word. But you know, Schitt's Creek's a great show too. Well,
That's another podcast we can do.
oh yeah, I would love to talk about that show. It's also a very good gay positive show. But have you
Yeah,
gotten
once I'm done, we'll do it.
did you meet Patrick yet, Greg?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
Just
love
a couple episodes ago. Yeah.
But yeah, so
Patrick's great.
let's move into like our favorite surprises of the year, and this can be anything that came up. And now that I'm looking at who's on this episode versus all the picks, they're mostly all TV related again. But there are some of us did pick some other things. If you go to our website, Becca's is the most interesting one. But yeah, so we'll start with you, Greg. We're talking about your biggest surprise of the year.
Well, I mean, it's weird because like most of this year just feels like such a. It's a weird year, but like I really think long and hard about this because I really couldn't think of a surprise that besides pandemic.
Well,
that was
it's a surprise that's a positive.
A positive surprise, exactly.
Yes.
So like there was, I had to think of some things like, at first I was thinking about like, the first thing that came to mind. It's not it could be positive depending how you look at it. I don't think it is, but like DC doing what they did with what they're doing now with what AT&T's doing with DC and blah blah blah. They're like, nah, that's too negative. I don't want to do that, And then I was just thinking, I just really couldn't think of anything. And then all of a sudden, I saw a commercial for Animaniacs for Hulu, and I totally forgot that they were rebooting that show.
I forgot about it too.
I saw the.
Did you see? Which was the first thing that you saw?
Like,
what was the trailer that you saw? Because I can tell you the story about my trailer.
It was it wasn't the Jurassic Park one. It was the one right before that one.
I saw the Jurassic Park.
The Jurassic Park one, I really.
It was amazing, so perfect. You've got a Pinky in the Brain. Yes, we have Pinky. Oh my god, it's so good.
The first episode was amazing, just like a callback to everything Animaniacs did right.
I watched some of
but now like good, yeah. My only complaint about the show, and it's not a big complaint, but it does get very it's not subtle politicism. Like clearly the people who made the show are very liberal, which is fine, but like the politics seep in a little too much for my likings for a show that was so, I can say irreverent, but they didn't really delve into that when it first came out.
Animaniacs,
a little bit.
No, they got into it a lot. People forget how much of it they were because we were kids when it was out. But like Bill Clinton's in it all the time. Back and watch it. Yeah, it's.
Well, no, that I remember that one.
There's more political stuff in it of the day than people remember. You just don't remember it because you're a kid and didn't care about it.
I might go back and watch it, but that being said, like, I thought it was a little too much of it, which is, again, I didn't mind it. Just I felt like it was the same joke over and over again. Yeah. It was the same Donald Trump or whatever joke. Like, okay, I get it. Let's move on to.
Well,
let's move on to something different.
I've seen a couple of the songs in it. I love the one about reboots because they're obviously talking about themselves.
That's fantastic.
And at the end, they mentioned how they sold out.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, they sold out. Yeah.
I love the one where was it Yakko eats like iPad or something, so he gets all the knowledge of the internet.
He knows everything.
Yeah, but like the song they're singing about mentions like, hey, the show was written in 2018, so here's the things we think might have happened by the time you see it.
It's so good.
That's pretty funny. So it's not completely current because they do talk about like Trump and stuff, but like obviously a lot of other things. They obviously don't talk about pandemics and things. But I know there's like an anime sequence. Like there's a lot. I don't have Hulu. I need to pick it up just to watch Animaniacs.
Yeah, Mo and I do watch it together, so I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but
yeah, it is crazy.
It just brings a smile to my face.
Yeah, it is crazy thinking about how it's a Warner Brothers property, like literally the Warner Brothers, and it's not on HBO Max. Obviously, this was a deal that was signed like years ago, but it seems like a thing that they would bring to that. Yeah, it seems like something they would want to bring as an exclusive thing because I haven't watched the new Looney Tunes stuff they produced yet. Now that
it's not bad. Like I've seen some of those. They're okay.
I want to watch them. I'm sure they're fine.
I mean, the good thing about the new Looney Tunes is they don't shy away from the violence of like what the old Looney Tunes were, which I've always hated that. Like some of the newer Looney Tunes stuff, like they kind of shied away from the cartoon violence, as they say, but like it's there in this reboot. Yeah. So but that's not my best surprise for this year. So.
But yeah, no, Animaniacs looks like it's par for the course, which is amazing because it's been like what 20 years, 20 plus.
Yeah, animation's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to check it out. I'm glad that it came out. I'm glad that it's good. It's cool that it's back.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joey, what's your best surprise for the year?
Like Greg was saying, it's trying to figure out, look back and see through the year. I mean, my year, like I don't think of anything from like March, like from January to March. Like I think just 2020 to me is just like lockdown to now. Like I forget about the beginning,
Yeah.
which is a weird way to like think of a year. So like in my mindset, I think of that, and like first thing I thought of was kind of like hey, we made it through a baseball season as a baseball guy, which you can hear the podcast of that also about talking about baseball. But I was like, no, because I mean, like they made it, but there was a lot of screw ups, and I mean, there's a lot of screw ups in all sports right now with that kind of protocols and stuff. But for me, it has to be for me personally as I said earlier in the podcast, I generally don't play a ton of games, but there's one game I always play almost every single day and have for over 4,000 hours. That's they finally started to really push and really talk about and really hint that by the end of the year, so hopefully by the time this podcast drops, the final DLC for The Binding of Isaac will be out. As a person who's played it, and I've got like 3 unlocks left to get 100%. It's the game I play the most. They took a popular mod called Anti-Birth that was out and integrated it into the actual game itself, and has added new levels, new bosses, new enemies, new weapons. They've been constantly putting on Steam. You see a blog post about it showing new things and more or less hinting that it should be coming out, hopefully, knock on wood, by the end of the year. But the fact that they're actually posting stuff about it was a surprise, because I mean they've been talking about adding more DLC for this forever. The game's not new, but it's the game
Game's quite old now.
Yeah, like I play it all the time. It's I joke, it's my like growing up, you would play like Tony Hawk. You'd come home from school, run in Tony Hawk for like a couple runs just to fill time, or play Madden and do that, and then you'd be done. Isaac's that. Isaac's my cool down game. Isaac's the game I play while watching baseball, sitting here on the computer, or just I need to get tired, I'll play Isaac. And the fact that there's new DLC to unlock the whole game to give me more hours into it was a huge surprise for me, because I mean, video games always talk about like the game's coming out. I mean, look, Cuphead was announced years ago, and like it's coming, and I'm like, it's never coming, and then it came, so that was good. But like, that's they've been talking about Isaac forever, and it's a game I love, so it was my biggest surprise that they're actually doing it and actually showing stuff in there. Hopefully, by the time this drops, I'll be spending all my nights and days playing that game.
Yeah, and I've seen your Steam thing. You're not exaggerating about 4,000 hours.
No, I'm at 4,137.1 hours.
Yeah.
So Joe, out of curiosity, how many hours do you have in Wizards and Warriors? Do you keep that on track, or?
Well, I've been playing that game since I was 7, so
I demand a total by the time I talk to you next.
So I play that game a lot. I mean, I can finish it in 15 minutes, 16 minutes.
Yeah.
But no, there was one year that I think it was the year after high school, and everyone went away to college, and I was still home working. I would sit on the computer because that would be the only way I could talk to my friends who went away to school, and I just play that game because I didn't play games on the computer. So I would just play Wizards and Warriors over and over and over. So probably I'm equally the same, but it's just such a surprise, and that's a good surprise. I mean, the baseball was kind of like a surprise in the sense where it was like, wow,
did it actually work?
I did not see this happening. Kind of surprise. Where this surprise makes me like, it's like a kid on Christmas morning opening up a gift you had no idea Santa was going to get you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I picked this one.
Nice. Well, I'm happy for you. I know roguelikes are your jam, and specifically Isaac.
Yeah, it's I like retro games. That's generally what I play, but this game hits that mark on my head. So
All right. Well, John, let's talk about yours real quick.
Yeah, mine was the Parks and Recreation reunion, or I guess it was like the COVID reunion video that was on YouTube. It was like a 25 like 30-minute kind of like mini episode that the original cast from Parks and Rec they came back to like make like a quarantine edition of Parks and Rec, which was pretty cool. It was something that was just kind of happened. It's definitely unexpected, and it was just something that was fun to watch for like half hour or whatever.
Yeah, it was fun because I remember when they announced it, it was like, oh yeah, it's going to be like this Friday or whatever, and it was like, oh what? I
Yeah,
actually made time to watch it.
Yeah.
Because I love Parks and Rec. It was nice to see all the characters again. It was funny. So it takes place like it was obviously recorded on Zoom, so all the actors are like in their real houses. So they kind of had to like reasons why like April and Andy aren't together. Like Andy's locked in the garage because it's not all these people like live together in real life.
Right,
And
yeah.
then because of that, I forgot that Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally or whatever her last name are married in real life. So all of a sudden she's just in the background, like stalking him or whatever, because she's a crazy person in that. Like it was fun. Like, wasn't the most hilarious thing.
No, it wasn't like the best thing ever, but it was
yeah,
like a nice surprise.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice to see everyone again, like because they didn't have to do that.
Yeah. It's something like out of everything that's happened, if there was anything like semi good that came out of like quarantine, it was that.
Yeah, I know 30 Rock, they did something similar, which was also fun. But the Parks and Rec crew are just, I don't know, like it's more like familial, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
That's been like a trend, I think, during the whole pandemic. Like reunions, like Parks and Rec and 30 Rock kind of did it like the show itself. But I know Josh Gad, the guy who plays Olaf, had that show Reunited Apart, where they brought back old movie casts and stuff to talk about the movie. They did Goonies. I know they just did one for Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, and before that it was Wayne's World, which was great.
Yeah, they did one for Ghostbusters too. I watched.
Yeah, so it's like it's neat to see them all like that, and during a bright spot. But like the Parks and Rec one and the 30 Rock had it like it wasn't just like you saw Chris Pratt talking to like Rob Lowe. It was the characters, which was really neat to have that aspect, not like the normal people just talking. So
yeah, so it's kind of like sort of like an extra episode. It wasn't quite one.
Yeah.
But like but Parks and Rec, they had like everybody show up, like all these incidental characters. Didn't Pert Hapley show up? I think John Ralphio did. Yeah, like it was fun, like to see everyone kind of get back together. Plus, we got a little snapshot of like where the characters kind of are now. Even though that was sort of the final episode was like showing them in the future and like kind of where they were going, but it was still neat to see,
Yeah, it was just something that was a little fun thing to watch for like a half hour,
It was a good piece of news. I was really happy when I heard that because I think we were still like all locked up. Like I don't think the store was opened up again yet.
It was around like that March.
Yeah.
March,
April.
April.
It was early.
Yeah.
All right, Wes, I'm going to actually hold off on yours real quick because mine's going to be a little bit shorter. You and I are going to have something to talk about with your surprise. My surprise was the Harley Quinn cartoon actually being good. And I'm only going to touch on this very briefly because later this month, I have a whole podcast planned where I'm going to have a couple of Harley Quinn super fans I know on, and we're going to talk about her and the show specifically. But I'm, in a nutshell, I'm not a fan of the character. And I'm not a fan of the Joker. And this may be some of my favorite versions of those characters, like full stop. Season 2 Joker, I think, is my favorite version of that character to ever exist. Which I know is a big statement because everyone has Mark Hamill. Like, how do I like him better? Like I said, we'll save that for that podcast episode. But Wes's pick for best surprise was really close to being also mine, and was also really close to also being my show of the year. So why don't you take it away, Wes?
Yeah, my surprise was a show that came out in 2005. And the reason it's on my list as my biggest surprise is because I can't believe it took me 15 years to see it, which is Avatar: The Last Airbender. When it came out, it was on Nickelodeon. Yeah, I have kids, so I was like, yeah, I would catch a stray episode here or there. Wasn't really into it. But then as time went on, more people kept saying, "Oh my God, Avatar is so good, you have to watch it." A friend of the store, Jericho, would rave about it. I'm like, yeah, okay, but Jericho likes everything, so I'm like, okay.
That's kind of the same experience I had with Jericho too about it.
And it wasn't until this year where I had several different people said, "Have you ever seen Avatar: Last Airbender?" Two different employees of mine at work, both at different times, said, "You need to watch Avatar," knowing that I like anime.
Yeah.
They were like, "You have to watch Avatar." I'm like, "Really?" I said, "Through the years, people said it was really good." They said, "No, you have to watch it." Then I come into work at Level Up, and then you say,
Yeah.
"You really need to watch Avatar."
I said, as I just finished, I was like, oh my God, Wes, you need to watch Avatar. It's really good. Because I had also just watched it for the first time. I had a similar experience where everyone was like, since 2005, I was like, this show's really good. I tried watching it a couple of years ago, and like the first episode's really kind of cartoony. And I was just like, you know what? I was an adult when this came out. I think you needed to have been a kid. And I was just like, I don't think this is for me. But my big surprise is, yeah, it lived up to the hype, which things after being built up for 15 years usually don't. But hot damn, it is a great TV show. High watermark for children's entertainment, or family entertainment, because it's just as good as an adult. Like, I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed every episode. Even like you said, the first episode was more geared towards kids, and it took me a minute to warm up to Aang, only because you could tell it was initially geared for kids because the way he acted, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what everybody's talking about, but by episode 2 and 3, it kind of comes into its own, and it was good for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Even after I jumped on Korra immediately after, and enjoyed it, not as much as Avatar, but it's still very good in its own.
Yeah, Korra's a good show. It's just not nearly as good as Avatar. Like, it's just in that shadow. It's big shoes to fill. Have you guys watched it, John? I assume you probably grew up with it.
Yeah, I did. Funny enough, I haven't seen it in full, but when I was a kid, I caught episodes here and there. I would love to go back and watch it because you guys have been saying it's great, and I'd probably have like just a new perspective on it. But I used to play like the DS games for Avatar: The Last Airbender as a kid. Like I remember that more than the TV shows. But what got me out of the last Avatar: The Last Airbender was actually the movie that came out. I saw the movie when it came out, and I didn't like it, and that was kind of when Avatar fell off for me. But it's cool to see it like come back now and have like an appreciation from like an adult standpoint and a teenager kid standpoint.
Yeah, it's really good. I assume Joey and
Yeah,
Greg, I assume you guys have not seen it. Highly recommend it. Wes, was the reason you watched it because I was raving about it, and I never rave about anything? Was that the straw that broke your back?
Scott
All right.
likes it. It has to be good.
Yeah.
It's funny, John, because you talked about the movie. I was actually going to go back and watch the movie to see if I have a different perspective of it. Because when I saw it in the movie, I didn't really know the character. I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't like it.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Watching the movie's bad, regardless if you've seen the source material or not. I kind of already liked the movie, in the way that like I love watching like bad movies and ripping on them. It's a terrible, terrible movie. It's one night M. Night Shyamalan's worst. But I think I would hate it now that I've seen the show and knowing what it could have been. Because the show is like I mentioned it with BoJack. I love characters, the shows and stuff that are really character driven. Some of the best, most realized characters I've seen in any cartoon. Name any one of the characters and they have some sort of great story. Like I can be like, oh, let's talk about Toph and we can talk about her for forever. But like, nothing's better than like Zuko and like the arc he goes on. One of the most compelling characters I've watched in a long time. I've since for Christmas I got they've been re-releasing the comics in like omnibus form. and I got the first 2 volumes of that. So I just read them yesterday, and like it's like not missing a beat. And so Wes, I'd recommend you picking those up at some point. They're really good. It's just like new episodes. But yeah, I'm sure everyone knows about how great it is. So I just wanted to throw that out there, how much we enjoyed it.
If you've never seen it, do yourself a favor and watch it.
Yeah, it's on Netflix now. It's more accessible than ever. And then I guess give Korra a look too, because Korra's not bad. I know it's got kind of a bad reputation. I know it has some behind the scenes things, like season 2 is pretty cheap looking, but it's a good show. It's also worth watching. But Avatar: The Last Airbender is really good.
It's funny. Yeah, it's so funny that like it took so long for it to like really catch on. I mean, it was popular when I was a kid. Like I remember like at least when I was in elementary school, like everybody liked it. It didn't have like a bad rep or anything. It wasn't really till the live action movie came out that it got like a bad reputation from like a kid standpoint. But it's just so funny that like now like seeing everybody into it, and it was just like one of those things that like I don't know, it was just on in the morning or something like that on Nickelodeon. It's funny how things happen like that though.
Yeah, I'm sure I probably could have said something similar about Ninja Turtles like in the 90s.
Probably. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
When that started coming back. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's watch though. I have to watch it again.
but yeah, if you know anyone watching this or listening to this also wants to check out, there's also 3 other people who contributed to this. They also have picks for these things. So before you go commenting about like, I can't believe you didn't talk about so and so, we might have. So just go to levelupentertainment.com for the full listings of all the choices we picked. Because I'm sure someone's like, why didn't you pick Animal Crossing? Someone picked Animal Crossing. Don't worry about it. That was the game I put the most hours into this year, just because it came out right as the lockdown started. It was just like the perfect time to just play a game. I had nothing else to do.
Perfect game for the time.
Yeah, it's been fun. But that's going to do it for our 2020 Didn't Completely Suck Awards this year. We'll definitely do 2021. We've been doing this like for 5 or 6 years now. This is the first time we've done it in podcast form. So knock on wood. And as long as this is still fun to do, I'm going to keep doing a podcast, keep doing the podcast. So, maybe we'll see us again next year, but, you can tune into us every week here. Every Friday we release new episodes. Guys, got any closing argument or closing statements, not closing arguments about 2020? Some send-offs to it you'd
Goodbye.
like to say? Yeah, good riddance.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't all bad. I mean, like we talked about, it's been stressful and hard, but a lot of people have gotten through it. Not everybody, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean,
but that being said, there are a lot of people who have done amazing things, not just doctors, but friends and neighbors. And, I'm thankful that not everybody in this world is, to lack of a better word, not a jerk, so, I am thankful for that, but, there's always something good to look for every year, no matter who you are, what you do, I think hopefully you can find something that was good for this year. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Just, keep positive, hope, hopefully next year's better, but it's going to be a different world. We're going to be totally different than we were this year. So
yeah,
good or bad.
I think it's important to remember, even in like when in the bad times, there are always things to be thankful for and positives. I know we were talking, we've discussed like, because we're like a pop culture store, we talked about like, fun things like video games and cartoons and stuff. But there's been a lot of people that have done a lot of good work over this year. A lot of people have come together, help do food drives and help out like, local communities and stuff, and people that have been devastated by this, extreme circumstances we found ourselves in. And people are continuing to do that as well. We're still, 2020 might be over, but, all of the problems from 2020 are going to continue on for the foreseeable future. Hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll be through the light at the end of the tunnel. But, until then, try to remember to find the positives where you can, and not just find them for yourself, but like remember to tell people about them and to share things. I mean, one of the things that I really liked about 2020 is starting to do the podcast. I mean, granted, it started as circumstances where it's like, I can't hang out with people. And this was kind of an excuse to do that. But it's been fun to keep doing. And like I said, as long as it continues to be fun, I will keep doing it.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say thank you for the podcast.
Yeah.
The way to like see people, we're here, own little bubble, especially during the middle of it. I mean, I was lucky enough to be on a few, and that baseball one, like,
that was fun.
It's something that I always look forward to, coming into the store and being able to talk with Greg, and even back before podcast with Bob Morgan, and like always talking about baseball with like friends, because most of my friends aren't real baseball guys, but I have a few. So I have like Greg and Harry and like my dad, but I haven't been able to see people. So to have that moment and have that kind of like sense of normalcy in the middle of it, it's been been the silver lining in this crazy whole mix-up world that a podcast like this can catch on. And
dude, my dad watched the baseball one and was like, hey, next time you guys talk baseball, I want to come on. Because he's like, I miss talking to Joey about stuff, because not that you guys hang out all the time, but he always liked you because you guys could always talk like sports and different kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like you're
baseball any day of the week.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll be back in the store next year, at some point. Be a little different about probably the nights and weekends, or whatever, but I do want to, I do miss everybody who works there, and, all of the friends I've made over the years. It's been weird. If anyone doesn't know, my wife gave birth this year. It's our first child. So, I've been thankful for that time with her. But I do miss the store a lot. I miss working with the people I work with, miss, my friends who I've made it over the years. Like there's so many people that I've missed, and it's just crazy to think like they have kids who are 13 years old now or whatever, like, or good at, for instance, like Wes's daughter, Maite, I've known since she was a little baby, and she's what now, 23, 22, 23,
20, she'll be 24 next month.
Oh my
24.
God.
Like I can't wait till, you and Maite can hold, my child, which is, hopefully sometime middle next year. She'll be a little older then, but like it's gonna be weird seeing Maite, who I held in my arms all those years ago.
You'll say your daughter's gonna be talking to them by the time they see each other.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, so,
it's funny because
yeah.
I said when Sean came into the store the other day, and Greg, I said the exact same thing. I said it's so weird how the friendship that we've all built over the years. We've all gone through so many different experiences. We've all gotten older. Now we have kids, and now we're seeing our kids grow up, and I am very grateful for that, because it's something you never forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
everybody store's family to me.
Yeah, so it's more than just being in the store. Because this year we hired a couple of people, and I was sort of mentioning to them after the fact, after I got to know them a little bit, that for example, like one of the people we hired this year is Tab, who we've known since she was a little girl. But she's like, why did you guys want to? I know which is like, why did you guys want to hire me? She's not into this stuff. And I was like, it's more a personality thing. Like we're all friends and stuff at the store, so it's just kind of like, hey, we knew you would fit. But that's the corporate lines. Like, we're not you're not my workers, you're my family or whatever. But we all are genuinely friends. Like, everyone here works at the store and generously donating their time to continue to talk to me about things. John and I talked about nonsense all day long today, and now he's continuing to do it until the evening. Which, in regards to that, I am an old man and I'm getting tired. So I think we should wrap it up. But thank you guys so much for joining me. Thanks for your picks for these. Hey, if we missed something, sound off in the comments. I'd love to hear it. It's good for our algorithm as well. But yeah, let us know, agree, disagree. Is Avatar the worst show that's ever existed? I don't think I've ever heard anyone who's watched it say they don't like it. So we'll see. I'm sure I'm tempting fate with those comments. But so until next time, be safe.